Taxstone exposes Nore for faking his podcast numbers.
Y'all started falsifying y'all ads, and this is real talk. Tristan Walker, them niggas tell on that. Nore, all of them was faking their numbers because they said, Tax, how the fuck are you selling 300 razors and these is selling 20? And they talking about they got 1 million views on their show and they got 1 million followers. And I left it alone like I knew nothing was going on. But this is why Nore not on CBS now, because they was there faking their numbers at CBS. The first couple episodes, they acting like they got fucking 2 million fucking hits and shit, and CBS found out and they ain't want to pay up. You got these weird ass talking to me when I'm a who came from the street and knew my business. I went in every office and did my deal. I went in Duce office and brokered my own fucking deal with pure knowledge of the liquor industry that I learned off the internet.
That's right. On a recent Twitter space I was on, Taxstone joined and he talked about a lot of people, but one of the things he mentioned was that in the early days of Drink Champs, Nore might have been faking his numbers, and it was so egregious that CBS no longer wanted them on their network. Now, we have to zoom out and look at the ramifications of this, as it paints a clearer picture of how these podcasters may have risen to the top of their industry. Remember when Rory went on Drink Champs with Joe Budden, and it was a very interesting conversation the two parties had. They essentially started debating the authenticity of Drink Champs numbers.
6 million men. No, I don't believe that. 500,000 women.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
No.
I love that they don't
How you
believe
don't
it.
believe us, man?
I love you. Demographics.
Y'all know
I'm
what
gonna give you a
Serial
simple
podcast
demographic.
is?
Yeah,
Y'all know
of
what-
course, of course.
I don't even think Serial did 6 million. How the f y'all do 6 million?
All right, so y'all don't believe that 6 million people are listening to y'all.
A month.
And I couldn't help but think about this moment when Taxstone mentioned that they were having fake engineered numbers over at Drink Champs. Now, if you break down what Taxstone said earlier in the clip, it's pretty clear that he was doing the science. Now, when he said the thing about razors, you may be thinking, oh, what does that even mean? It makes no sense. Well, I think what Taxstone is talking about is Bevel. Remember Bevel? It was the #1 ad all of these podcasters had at the time before the podcast boom. And it was essentially a promo code. Hey, promo code Tax, and then buy Bevels. And what he said was that they were able to track that Taxstone was selling 300 razors. And that same company said that Drink Champs could only sell 20. Now, I'm sorry, this video may be really nerdy. This video may be a little bit out of the grasp of what a casual might care about. But I still think it paints a picture of just how fake some of the followings of certain shows can be, and how when a podcast first starts, it might be the first time that they start to buy views. I'm not saying Nore did that, but it looks a little crazy and it looks a little odd, because if you look at the Drink Champs interview with Rory, some of the numbers they were throwing out were really wild. Nore was essentially saying that he was getting so many listeners that would have made him equal to a podcast like Serial. And Serial is no doubt the biggest podcast to ever exist. I even think it probably was bigger than Rogan at a certain point. I mean, it was the podcast that changed podcasting. It's basically the Jesus Christ of podcasting. There was before Serial and there was after Serial. Serial was on in people's car. Serial was groundbreaking. It revolutionized podcasting and it kind of changed everything. So for Nore to go on his platform and say that, you know, he was getting millions of listeners, it just doesn't resonate now that Taxstone essentially exposed what could be the truth about those numbers. Now, Drink Champs is in an interesting point right now because all of the interview platforms, eventually they're going to run out of people to interview. And even if they don't run out, they will start to have to interview people who aren't going to get the same numbers as previous guests that they had. They'll have to interview people like Jocelyn Hernandez, which Nore did. Just people that not going to engineer the clicks like they typically do. So I suspect that after all of this Diddy stuff, I could see Drink Champs rebranding, maybe coming back as the Noriega Show. And when you rebrand, that allows you to interview everybody again. because you can say, oh, that was Drink Champs. That was different. And never mind that Drink Champs is under Revolt TV. And everybody knows Diddy was attached to Revolt TV. Diddy was a big player in Drink Champs. So I think that's another reason a rebrand might be coming for them. And I don't know. I think the future of Drink Champs is fraught with peril because the platform is running out of steam. You even see other podcasts like Joe Budden. They're running out of steam to me. I think some of the stuff is refried, repackaged material. But because they don't rely on guests, they're going to be uniquely positioned to survive this podcast apocalypse that has engulfed the industry. If you listen to podcasts right now, especially in the urban space, it's really weak. And the people who are doing guest-based podcasts, they're trying to piece things together. It just ain't hitting the same. $1 million worth of game might be headed for a humbling. I'm pretty sure Barstool is looking at their numbers like, I don't know if this is really hitting like that. All of the stuff that we do for you, I don't think the money's coming in high regard like we thought this was at the start of the deal. So I think these guest-based podcasts, especially them that might not have the organic following that we think they do, like Rory Mal, Joe Budden, they are organic. Hell, even Horrible Decisions, organic. Crazy cult fan bases of podcasts that will ride or die for the show. You can't disrespect the show. They're the best podcast ever. Hey, whatever. Rory and Mal trash, but I'm riding. That's kind of like the fan bases that these podcasts have. But when you look at $1 million worth of game, when you look at Drink Champs, they don't have a fan base like that. They have fleeting fan bases that go up and down contingent upon whatever guest that they have. And when a podcast apocalypse happens, that's when you see the true value. And I wonder what this will mean moving forward. But that's my video for now. Let me know what you think about Taxstone's comment on Drink Champs. Do you feel like the numbers were engineered? Let me know what you think about. Go back and watch that Rory Joe Budden Drink Champs interview. Because now with Taxstone's comments, it adds a whole nother layer and something that we have to do the science on. I mean, Effin looked like he wanted to attack Rory when he was trying to tell him what an impression was and all of that stuff. He wasn't feeling it. And now, as Drake would say, this is all making plenty sense to me. Anyway, please follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Please follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.